Hey, it's Drybear. We're finally getting Deskaluda, so today we're gonna go through everything you need to know to defeat this Guardian Raid. As with my other guides, we will split the guide into two different parts. The first part will cover everything you need to know in just 60 seconds. Then we'll spend the second part of the video going in detail on all the mechanics, talking about more advanced techniques for anyone who's looking for extra help. So let's go. But first, if you have any questions or comments for me, you'll find me live every day on twitch.tv/Drybear. Who knows? I might even be streaming right now. Let's begin with Deskaluda in 60 seconds. Deskaluda is a fight with many counter opportunities. When he creates a whirlwind, he will target two players and mark them with a cross. Marked players create space and then stand still so it won't hit teammates. Afterward, he will land, dealing damage. He spawns spikes that pause their aim and then fire. They stun you on hit, so dash at the last second. He does big blasts. Blue cannons are safe, green cannons are bad. He does 4-directional fire blasts. One direction will be safe. Occasionally, that safe direction will explode after the others do. When he roars, he gains armor. Apply a weak point to destroy it and gain HP and a crit buff. He will fly up and spawn images that swoop forward. Look at the ground indicator underneath. An orange line is just damage, but when you see green, it'll be real and he can be countered after. Stack together to guarantee it spawns on you. Woo! And that is Deskaluda in 60 seconds. Now let's go through the detailed mechanics a little bit more in depth without the time restriction. We'll also cover some of the lesser important attacks that I didn't cover in the 60 seconds because honestly, they're pretty self-explanatory. So Deskaluda is a Guardian Raid that has a lot of opportunities to counter. You'll see him dashing repeatedly. He'll also have a swoop attack with a green ground indicator. If you stand in front of him and counter it, it'll knock him down. And actually, if he's been recently countered and he can't be countered again, if he does the swoop attack, he can still be countered. So you'll be able to just knock him down and do a lot of damage to him on top of that. You'll either have him charge towards you, just like every of the birds do, all Helgaia and Frost Helgaia, and you can counter him then, or he will do this multi-stage attack where he'll fly up into the air and spawn images of himself and start dashing back and forth until the last one, where he will be there himself and then dash forward and you can counter him then. Now he actually does this all the time. So you'll actually see him anytime he does the dash like this. Again, the thing you're looking for is right here. This green indicator that comes out of him for the dash. Anytime this is green, you know that he is counterable and he'll turn blue shortly after and then you can counter him and knock him down. However, you'll notice that when he does this illusion attack, he will go up into the air and spawn illusions. And then if you look at the actual markers here, the ones that are just fake illusions that deal damage are actually going to be orange. So you'll see the orange marker on the ground several times. And at the very last second, he will spawn a green one and then appear there himself. And once he's appeared there himself, you can get in front of him and counter him, knock him down, and then you can start punishing him as well. And the build up for this is he will just freak out, roar a little bit, and then fly up into the air. So you'll see him kind of jump. He'll do that big AoE. And then you'll see a bunch of images. The number of images can vary. I believe it's random. I've seen it go up to 7. I've seen it only be a handful. So it can be random. So you're really, the best thing you can do here is just wait for the green marker for when he really appears and look for the counter. Now, what some people will do for this attack is while it's going on, everyone will dodge as many oranges as they can, and then everyone will just group together in the same spot. So you can see everyone coming together. That way, when you have everyone kind of in the same area right here, he's going to target one player to do the counterable dash. So if you just make sure you're dodging the orange, you can see that me and the paladin here, we're like staying away from this orange area here. But you just stack together in one spot, and that means that no matter what, since whoever he targets, the dash will always be towards the big group, and then you can just turn towards him and counter him. So as you come together, you pick a player here, and then he just does the green dash, spawns, turns blue, kick him in the face, and then you're good to go. The next deck talked about is the tornado. You'll see him spin up into the air. I can get a good still of this. And then he'll pick two players, I believe up to two players, depending on who's alive. And then he'll create these X marks on them. So you'll have like two players that have these X marks on them. And as you turn, it's oriented to the way your player is. You can see how my character, this is the direction of my character. The X marks will come out based on the orientation of my character, which is kind of similar to Hildebrand Palace with Belshazzar. So those two players, as they turn, they'll create these X marks. So their goal is just to stand in a way that creates open space for the two that aren't marked. and then to stand still. So it stops moving. The other players, once you have enough space created, you can see that, you know, both me and the other player here, we created this space on either side where the other players have a safe zone where they can stand. And once that's created, stand still and don't move. And that way they can move that spot and be good. At the very end of it, he will pick a random player, and then you'll see him create this zone here where he'll land down after. Now, the problem is if you get hit by this little X marker, it will knock you down. And if you're one of the players in that AoE when it lands, it does a good amount of damage. So you're trying to make sure you don't get knocked down by this. Once it lands down on the ground, then just avoid the AoE, and then the random mechanic is done. He will also occasionally kneel down, put his wings down, and start channeling. And when you see this, usually he glows right before. Then he'll spawn these spikes right here. So you see a bunch of those little spikes. They come out of green portals, and some random number will target. Every player will have at least one, but some will have up to 3. And they'll start drawing these lines from the markers that go straight to the player they're targeting, and they will follow that player for a few seconds. So you'll see how, like, I have 3 right here. The lines are being created. And then after a few seconds, they stop aiming, and then they will freeze and then fire. So what you have to do is just spread out. This one's pretty easy. Just get distance from each other. And then right when you see them freeze, you know they're about to fire, either dash at the last second if you feel like you're going to get hit, or just kind of walk away from them as they move. The challenge with these is they do stun you if they hit you. So you can get hit by multiple of these and just be stuck in place and then get hit by other mechanics. He'll also do these big, wide sweeping attacks. So he'll kneel down. It'll actually darken the arena, and then he'll spawn portals on either side, like behind him and in front of him. And then he'll spawn a bunch of them to his wings. And there's 2 variations to this attack. There's one where there's the 2 in front of him are safe, and there's one where the wings are safe. So in this case, you just look at the color of the portal that appears. Based on the color, you'll know the blue ones are safe, which means they won't fire, and then the green ones are bad and they will fire. So you'll either get this one, which is pictured on screen, which is you'll get the wings will be unsafe and those will fire, and then in front of him and behind him will be safe. So you just have to stack behind him or in front of him. And you'll also see the other option, which is he will have a safe spot on either side of him, but then in front of him and behind him will be the danger zone. You'll occasionally see him roar, and then this little like tink animation will appear right in front of him. So see that again, you'll see him roar, and then you see that white splash that lands in front of him. That means he just gained armor. And the only thing here is that you just need to destroy it. There's a check later, like if he does the images swoop, I believe that he won't be counterable if he still has armor up when it's there. But you do want to break this because it does buff you once you break it. So when you see him roar like this, and he creates the armor, just use weak point to destroy it. You'll see destroyed start showing up on his body. Once you break the armor, it will knock him down, and then it'll heal people in your party and then give everyone a crit rate buff for, I believe, 60 seconds. So it's super worth doing, and it makes him counterable later. So anytime you see him roar like that, just do weak point, chip away at it, and then break it down. He will also do this directional flame, which looks like this. So he will actually, it's 4 directions. So it's, you know, south, west, east, and then north. And then he will pick 3 of them and then create these AoE explosions that all kind of fuse together all around him. And then he'll choose one of them to be safe. So one of them is always going to be safe. So if you're standing on the outside and you see there's a safe spot, you can move over. You can either go on the outside and leave it completely, or you can go to the safe spot if you feel like you're going to make it. The one thing I'll add here is towards the end of the fight, there's a chance that he will do like the direction that was safe. He will explode it after the 3 that weren't safe exploded. So just be wary that you might have to move if you're in the safe spot. He has an exploding spike attack where he will sweep his wing forward. So let's look at that again real quick. It's almost like he's trying to hide himself because he's shy. So you'll see him kind of bring his right wing in front of him, and so he'll start to glow green. That means he's about to do this attack. He will go up into the air and spin, and then he'll shoot these spikes down into the ground. And after a few seconds, these spikes that are sitting right here, so you'll see one there, there's one here. After a few seconds, they will explode, and there's 2 different ways that he finishes this attack. There's one which looks like this, where he will be on your screen and just kind of drift there for a little bit after he spawns these, and then he'll float back down to the ground. However, there's a variant to this attack where he will do the spin attack and then throw all the spikes down, but notice the difference here. Immediately after he finishes throwing the spikes down on the ground, he is now vacant from the screen. So he will actually fly higher up off screen, If you see him do this where he disappears after throwing the spikes, it means that he's going to follow this up with a dive bomb right after. And usually the direction that he's looking when he goes up into the air is the direction that he will be. So right here, you can tell by the indicators, he looked over here. So watch the little front indicator. If these are on, you can see that it's like right here now. Right after this turns, you can see that he will face that direction, disappear off the screen, and then land right down after. So anytime you see this spiked attack where he brings his wing down and swings it around, be wary of the exploding spikes, but also look at him to see if he disappears off your screen, and then he'll follow that up with a dive bomb that does a lot of damage. In fact, this is a common theme with him. If at any point he disappears off the screen, it means he will do that dive bomb attack. So just be wary of that. Now let's quickly run through his smaller, less important attacks, just so you've seen them before. He has a lot of little jumps. You'll see him pause a second, and he's look like he's lifting his weight up. So like right here, you'll see him lean forward, and then he'll have his posture low, but his wings up in the air. Means he's about to jump, and he's always jumping the direction he's looking. There's like 2 or 3 variants of this, but he will jump forward and land and then do a big AoE. So you can see how right here, as I'm facing towards him and I'm seeing him turn, I just run behind him before I start attacking because I can tell he's about to jump. And he'll do this several times. Sometimes he'll string a bunch of these together. He also has several breath attacks, and these are pretty easy to tell as well. You'll see him use his head. His body kind of stays the same silhouette wise and shape, but his head moves dramatically. So you'll see him right here. You'll see him, his wings kind of went down, but his head went way back, and you'll see a gathering of energy right in his chest. That means he's about to do a breath attack, and there's a few versions of this. Usually he'll just do what he just did there. He'll breathe in front of him, leap back a little bit, and the attack that he does actually continues. So you'll see when it goes like this, it'll have this explosion right here, and then it'll do a follow-up explosion right in front of it. So just be to the side of him or behind him, or if you see it and you're far away, just make sure you're not directly in front of him when he does this breath attack, and he'll usually either do it once or chain it together a bunch of times, but it's pretty easy to dodge. Sometimes when he does the breath, he'll create little smaller areas that explode after a delay. So you'll see that like right here, this kind of like little green goo area. If he does breath attacks into the ground, sometimes they'll just spawn all around him. They're pretty small. Just make sure that you're not in the area when they explode. His other breath attack is probably the one that'll hit you more than anything else, is going to be his 180 turn. So he has 2 variants to this. He will do a regular 180 turn like this, where he'll lean, and then you can actually see him lower a wing and then raise a wing. So you'll have this wing kind of going up and one going back. When you see this, it means he's about to turn around. And usually he will just do this regular turnaround with his tail sweep, and he'll face 100 degrees the opposite direction. But there's a variant on this attack where he includes a breath, and this one probably does the most. I feel like of all the mechanics, I get hit by this one the most. So what you'll see is he'll either do the spin or he'll do a quarter turn. But the big tell here is what he does with his head. If he's in the air, he usually does this. If he's on the ground, he can sometimes do a hop and do it. But again, same thing. Look when his head gets kind of curled, and then there's this fire building up in his chest. It means he's about to do the breath version. And you'll see that when he does it, it's actually pretty big. You know, it covers this area, and it's pretty fast too. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does kind of chip away at you. So just be wary that he does have that. He'll either do a quarter turn on it or a 180 turn, and then do that breath on top. He'll also spawn tornadoes occasionally. They stay in one spot and just spin, and yeah, they're tornadoes and they're bad and they hurt you. So don't stand in them. The last thing I'll cover is his like backflip dive bomb attack that he looks like this. He will fly up in the air and float for a second as he pauses, and you'll actually see his claws go forward a little bit. So these right here, you'll see them kind of go forward, and he'll shake and tremble. And then he's about to do this flip where he will actually kind of go like this and then slam the ground. But the reason I want to cover this is it's actually a pretty big area when he does it. It goes all the way around here. And the thing to note is that it doesn't just go forward because he does do that backflip. So you'll notice like right when he does it here, there's actually a zone right behind him that he will attack. So if you're a back attack class, especially if we get the indicators in the patch, just make sure that you're standing to the very side so you don't get hit by this little spin move that he does. And then obviously if you're in front of him and you see him raise his claws up like he's gonna grab you or something, but there's no extra bit there, just be wary of this little spin move that he does, and it does knock up when it hits you. And that's it. That's everything you need to know about Deskaluda. I hope you guys really enjoy it. He's probably one of the more fun and casual guardians in the game. He doesn't change platforms very often, if at all. He doesn't really have any wipe mechanics. He's very, very casual, very relaxing to face. He's just a good time, man. He's a good time. He wants to make sure you get your loot, and he's a good guy for it. So that's Deskaluda. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.